Hello and welcome to GameSack. We're talking about some controversial games.
Yeah, once again, some more games that are just crazy. Then you actually might learn something about how stupid the U.S. Senate is today. So this is going to be a really good episode. So I think you should just sit back and relax and enjoy.
One of the first games that springs to a lot of people's minds when talking about controversial games is Night Trap. So let's take a look at the game that caused a lot of ruckus. And that's the very first release on the Sega CD by Sega themselves. The government even held hearings sparked in part by outrage over this game.
The game is Night Trap, which is a game set in a sorority house. The object is to keep hooded men from hanging the young woman from a hook or drilling their necks with a tool designed to drain their blood.
Originally made in 1987 for an unreleased game system called the Nemo, which used interleaved fields of video from your VCR, Night Trap wouldn't see release until late 1992 on the Sega CD. It's an FMV game where you control 8 cameras in a house and a series of traps to capture these dudes who are supposed to be vampires. Well, actually, the whole family is vampires. You can switch to any of the 8 cameras at any time to see what's happening in that particular area. You can even follow people around the house. But your job is to capture all of the augurs as they wander around. These guys walk around like they trusted the wrong fart or something, and they're doing their best to keep their underwear clean. Now, normally you want to watch the story to see what's going on, but you're forced to go from room to room to room as fast as you can in hopes of not missing any augurs. And if that's not enough, they keep changing the access code to the traps to a different color, and if you miss them saying what color it's going to be, well, you're screwed. And the color it becomes is always random. Your mission commander does not have a lot of patience for you. If you screw up, he breaks your Genesis controller.
If you don't have the brains or the guts for this assignment, give the controls to someone who does.
If you're not man enough to do this, forget it, you know? You don't deserve to play this game.
I don't know why he just doesn't play the game himself. I mean, he's obviously a pro. So anyway, at the time this game was seen as ultra-violent, especially towards women. This scene right here is what sparked most of the controversy. Let's you and me watch it together.
Megan, this isn't gonna work. You're not scaring me. Wait. What are you doing? No! Megan, no!
Wow, I don't know how many children that corrupted. I'm guessing none. But the Senate committee hearings in December of 1993 disagreed.
It's a graphic depiction of the violence against women with strong overtones of sexual violence. I find this segment deeply offensive and believe that it simply should be taken off the market.
About 2 months ago, I saw the video game Night Trap for the first time. It is a sick, disgusting video game, in my judgment. It's an effort to trap and kill women. Shame on people that produce that trash. It's child abuse, in my judgment.
I mean, how would you like to have a teenage daughter go out on a date with someone who's just watched or played 3 hours of that game?
These boys who are playing these games are going to be more sexually aggressive and abusive as a result of the experiences they've had with the games.
The controversial scene, apparently the one we've just seen, and the one I've seen before, is displayed only when the game player loses. Does that make you feel any better?
Oh, it makes me feel a lot better that if you're a loser, you're dead. No, it doesn't.
Those hearings weren't just about this game, though, but several other games were brought up about how they're destroying society.
Encourages players to shoot this gun, which is called a justifier. In other words, this is the handheld implement with which you play the game by shooting it at the screen.
The justifier. And what does this game seem to teach our kids? Basically, that a gun can solve any problem.
Sega of America Vice President Bill White was there, and even Nintendo of America Vice President Howard Lincoln showed up.
And let me say that for the record, I want to state that Night Trap will never appear on a Nintendo system.
Obviously, it would not pass our guidelines. This game, which, as you've indicated, promotes violence against women, simply has no place in our society.
Oh, shut up. Nice way to use the hearings to promote your own company, you little turd basket.
There truly is something for everyone in our software catalog, and the variety of available software is multiplying each day.
Oh, you shut up too.
Nintendo, for example, is going to be coming out with a 64-bit system in the future.
There's an interesting difference between Sega and Nintendo in this matter in that we have moved ahead with CD technology, using a CD-ROM player as an interactive entertainment device.
Both of you just shut up. Anyway, Sega eventually pulled the game from store shelves because it was so incredibly evil. They promised to release a censored version, but they never did. Instead, Digital Pictures re-released it themselves on a bunch of different platforms, fully uncensored and still able to corrupt the minds of kids everywhere. No one died as a result. No one cared anymore, honestly. It didn't take long for Night Trap to fizzle away from people's minds. Maybe that's because a lot of people didn't think the game was very good.
There are 3 or 4 generations of video games. There's Pong, there's things like Space Invaders, there's Nintendo with cartoon figures. We're into the next stage right now, which is Night Trap type games. I think that there is an obligation to develop good games with iPhones.
But the one good thing to come out of the congressional hearings is that it got the video game industry to police itself, and that's always a much better alternative to any kind of government intrusion.
I feel to allow themselves to police themselves when they've already demonstrated they are out of control is like leaving a classroom in charge with the troublemaker.
In fact, the industry still does this to this very day.
Give parents the power to choose what's right for their kids, but don't tell adults what's right for them.
So, should you pick up Night Trap? Is it too much for you? Well, if you've never seen a movie with a worse rating than G, then yes, it might be a little bit too much for you to handle. But if you like cheesy FMV games, well, then you can't really go wrong here.
It has been quite a leap from Pac-Man to Night Trap.
Thrill Kill for the original PlayStation caused quite a stir in the gaming industry back in the late 1990s. This unreleased fighting game was developed by Paradox Development and was going to be published by Virgin Interactive. Paradox stated that they held nothing back in terms of violence and sexual themes while developing this game and wanted to use the hype that they built up to get their name known. These themes were so strong that this game would have gotten the first adult-only rating from the ESRB.
We must not allow the industry to trumpet a violent rating as a selling point.
Around this time, Electronic Arts acquired Virgin Interactive and decided not to release a game to the public, stating they would not publish such a senselessly violent game and they didn't want to ruin their image. Well, understandably, the developers of the game were a bit upset at this and took it into their own hands and released beta versions and nearly finished versions of the game to download for free on the internet. So, of course, I'm playing the game right now on a CDR copy. This game plays differently than a lot of the other fighters out there. You play 4-on-4 matches in a small arena. None of the characters have life bars, but they do have a bloodlust meter. As you fight and land attacks and combos, your meter fills. When somebody's meter fills completely, the fighting stops. The winner chases after one of the other opponents and eliminates them from the fight by either chopping off their head or smashing them against the wall or some other extremely gruesome tactic. The fight then continues until there's only one-on-one. The winner of the last battle has a chance to do a thrill kill, just like a finishing move in Mortal Kombat, but much harder to pull off. If you or your opponent are fast enough, you can evade the thrill kill. The winner's bloodlust meter slowly drains, and if they don't do their move before it runs out, then the fight resumes. I kind of like this feature, especially when I lost the battle. The fighting in this game is mostly chaotic, and it's hard to tell what's going on when everyone is bunched up throwing punches and kicks. Each character has a fair amount of moves and a few throws. The controller motions are all similar, but the moves vary from each fighter. Each character has more than a few costumes they can change into, and some of them are just strange. Like the imp here who just wears a black thong, or Oddball in his hospital gown with his cheeks hanging out. The sound effects from the characters are pretty nasty sounding too. Speaking of sounds, there is music in this game, but it doesn't seem to play in every stage. I'm not sure if it's because this isn't a finished version of the game or if that's how it's supposed to be. This game is truly gory and completely weird and has many sexual themes, like with Belladonna here. This is one of her grabs. She definitely likes doing that. I think the graphics are pretty good for the PlayStation. I'm just a bit sad that they didn't use more color in the game. Everything is drab and depressing. If this game was actually released, I don't know if I would have bought it or not. I probably would have, just because I would have been caught up in all the hype surrounding it. Have you played this game? What do you think about it?
Doom, of course, is another game that caused quite a stir. This time I'm playing it on the PC. Well, a Mac actually, but a Mac is a PC, so who cares? You all said I needed to play it on a PC after the last time we talked about it, so here we go. Anyway, here it is in all its glory. It looks almost as good as the 32X version. Almost. Now, I know most of you know that I was being sarcastic with that statement, but I know some of you will actually believe me. Actually, this is part of a package I got called Doomsday Engine, and it has multiple games in it. In this version, you can aim up and down, and I don't remember ever being able to do that in the original game. Not like it matters, it's there just because. You only really need to point your gun in the general direction of an enemy to hit it. It really doesn't matter if he's above or below you at all. But now you can aim up or down if you want. Anyway, back in 1993 when this was originally released, it was seen by authority figures as super violent. It probably would have flown under the radar, but almost everyone was playing it back then, so parents had a conniption fit. The computer is for doing taxes and AOL, not for bloody violence. I mean, some of these monsters even look human. The game has some satanic imagery here and there, and there's lots of blood as well. Oh! This, of course, led everyone who played it to worshipping the devil because gamers just aren't capable of cognitive thought, you see. So yeah, Doom caused a lot of hoopla back in 1993 and 94. But the media wasn't done with Doom there, oh no. Later on in 1999, this game played a role of blame in the Columbine shooting massacre, which happened only a few miles from my house. The killers happened to be avid players of Doom, so of course the game must cause destructive behavior. You know what else the killers did? Drink water, breathe air, wipe their asses with 2-ply. Correlation does not equal causation. People really needed to blame something, and this was an easy target. Of course, some people wanted it banned because they just could not accept the idea of personal accountability.
Senator Cole and I are clearly not saying that if video games were limited to Barney and Pac-Man, that violence would be out of our society. But we are saying that there are strong cultural forces at work, and video games are part of them.
Well, nothing got banned, and Doom is still around. Actually, it's quite tame compared to the first-person shooter games that people play these days. In fact, it's kind of funny to play this game in comparison and know that people flipped out of their minds over how violent this one was. As for this version right here, I like it. I like that I'm able to run the game at my monitor's native resolution and it's still silky smooth. The textures are blurry as all get out, but that's really no surprise. The music is faithful to the original as far as I know, as it sounds like primitive MIDI instruments. The mouse and keyboard combo is a pretty good way to play through the game, though many people still insist on using joysticks, even when playing on the PC. But whatever floats your boat. Heck, I'm just glad I can play it on my modern computer and don't have to keep some Acer Aspire unit running Windows 95 around. I think that most people remember Doom for being the game that it is these days and not for any of the controversies. And honestly, that's the way it should be. So controversial so far. What do you think, Dave?
I agree totally, but you know what else?
What?
I find your t-shirt very controversial, and I don't like it one bit.
Well, you can suck on it. You gonna have a Senate
I'm
committee
not
hearing
sucking on
about
anything.
that?
Yeah, maybe I will.
Okay, then.
I'm just not going to get Howard Lincoln in there, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, he's going to talk about Mortal Kombat, which we've got up next.
Cool. I mean, cool. Mortal Kombat is easily one of the most controversial games, especially for its time. This was one of the two major games discussed by the Senate Hearings Committee in 1993, and the outcome was the ESRB rating system. Although Sega decided to rate this game on their own terms with ratings that mimic the movie industry, Nintendo decided to have the blood and fatalities the game was most known for removed. This was a move that helped catapult Sega ahead and eventually surpassed Nintendo in system sales, albeit briefly. Suddenly, the Genesis was the cool system, and Nintendo was seen as watered down for younger audiences. However, Senators Joe Lieberman and Herbert Kohl were concerned with kids becoming more aggressive after playing this and wanting to rip heads and spines off of ordinary people.
Instead of enriching a child's mind, these games teach a child to enjoy inflicting torture.
Nintendo's Howard Lincoln spoke and stated Nintendo's position. What a coward this guy was to blame Sega right in front of their vice president Bill White for leaving the game's blood and gore mostly intact. Instead of teaming up to defend gaming as a whole, he goes after Sega to try and make Nintendo look good.
We knew that we would lose money by sanitizing Mortal Kombat, but sanitize it we did.
No matter which game was being discussed, he was only there to make the competition look bad.
I can't let you sit here and buy this nonsense that this Sega Night Trap game was somehow only meant for adults.
I'm not
The
buying
fact of the
it, I
matter
assure you.
is, this is a copy of the packaging. There was no rating on this game at all when the game was introduced. Small children bought this at Toys R Us, and he knows that as well as I do.
But it's funny to watch senators and other people talking about things they know little or nothing about.
They do not need to see the insides of people splattered against the wall.
Well, as it turned out, Sega did get the better version of Mortal Kombat, so I'm going to focus on it here. Not only were the fatalities left in, but you could input a code in the front of the game to unlock blood mode. This, of course, showed the bloody gore that the game was meant to have. At the time this came out, I liked the digitized characters and felt they looked very realistic. Today, that's a different story, as hand-drawn 2D sprites have aged a hell of a lot better than digitized people. The game is still very playable and is still fun even though it looks a bit ugly. Of the 7 characters available, I only really liked playing 4 of them.
I only really liked most of them.
Just over half of them. Raiden is probably my favorite, as I like his lightning attack and flying attack. I like Sonya for her leg throw, and there were countless nights that my friends and I wish she would do that to us. I also think that her fatality is one of the coolest in the game. Sub-Zero was fun, and he also had a great fatality, even though Senator Lieberman didn't think so.
The game narrator instructs the player to finish, and I quote, finish his opponent. The player may then choose a method of murder, ranging from ripping a heart out to pulling off the head of the opponent with spinal cord attached.
Maybe he's a Johnny Cage fan. And Liu Kang was cool with his flying kick and fireball. The backgrounds in this game are pretty good for the most part. I always liked the bridge with the moon and the clouds going by in the background. I also like that there were spikes under the bridge which you can launch your opponent into after you beat him. Even the music is pretty good and feels just right for the gameplay. While at the time Street Fighter was a much more fun fighting game, Mortal Kombat did have its place and it was fun to play from time to time. I had a great time playing through this game again, and I'm glad I got a chance to talk about it a little bit.
Mr. Lincoln, do you want to start?
Well, I think, as I testified in December, we've had game content guidelines at Nintendo since 1985. Certainly, it's our intention at Nintendo to continue to maintain those guidelines.
Oh, and despite Howard Lincoln's speech about Nintendo's guidelines on decency, Mortal Kombat 2 came out for the Super Nintendo fully uncensored, no codes needed. Turns out Nintendo likes money too.
And here we have Grand Theft Auto 5. This one's available for the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, PlayStation 4, Xbone, yes I said Xbone, and the PC. This is the PlayStation 4 version we're looking at here. The Grand Theft Auto series is no stranger to controversy since it's generally pretty violent, with the player always playing as a criminal. And don't forget about the whole hot coffee thing that went on with this one. Maybe another day we'll talk about that. But Grand Theft Auto 5 is the latest and greatest addition to the series, so of course everyone's going to focus their attention on this one. Oh, and be careful, because there's cussing in this game that might slip through into this video. However, if you're offended by such things and you're watching an episode about controversial games, well,
you only have yourself to blame.
In this one, you play as one of 3 characters, Trevor, Michael, or Franklin. Once you unlock them, you can usually switch between them at any time, and they'll just be going about their lives until you take control of them. Sometimes on missions, you'll have to switch back and forth between all 3 of them in a matter of a minute or 2 depending on the situation. Speaking of missions, the game is full of structured activities to do, from robbing a jewelry store to hijacking armored vehicles. Usually this requires a lot of setup and planning, and it's all very fun. Almost always, you end up in a giant shootout with the cops or someone else, and once you kill about 50 or 60 of them, then you're good to go. That's right, you can target and shoot cops here. That's nothing really new for the series though. But it's always fun seeing the mayhem play out. Anyway, playing the missions is really fun, but I play them mainly to unlock places, vehicles, or other things to use when I'm just running around causing random chaos for no reason whatsoever. This is where the real meat of the game lies, in my opinion. Just running around, beating people up for no reason other than that they exist. Yeah, that's right, you shouldn't have been standing there right now. You get a beat down, yo! Sometimes I like to single out somebody to terrorize. This dude I'm chasing just saw me beat up a bunch of other people. Now I'm chasing him. I like how he keeps looking back at me as he's running. I don't quite catch up to him because I want him to keep going for as long as he can. Every once in a while I'll beat up someone we run past just so he knows what's going to happen to him if I catch him. This is definitely going to be a day that he remembers. Stealing cars and other vehicles is also fun. I love taking out my aggressions on traffic that I could never do in real life. And you might as well run over a bunch of pedestrians while you're at it. Or if you really want to cause some mayhem, pull out a weapon and just start shooting the place up. The cops will be on your ass in no time, and it's always fun trying to escape. But it's even more fun blowing stuff up and watching people die in a fire. The AI in this game is awesome. Check out this cop who's hell-bent on pulling over this fuel truck for whatever the hell reason. Well, the fuel truck doesn't pull over, so the cop just keeps ramming into him. Anyway, since I'm a good, law-abiding citizen, I block the fuel truck and then the driver gets out and starts shooting at the cop. The cop shoots back and all of a sudden the tanker explodes. A minute or so later, a fire truck comes and rams through everything just to get to the burning fuel truck. They get out, look around, and just get back in. Oh well, I guess I'll steal the fire truck then. I love stuff like this. I really love this game. But since there's lots of violence in here, including violence towards women and even violence towards animals, player discretion is advised. You've got to wait till your kids are at least 6 or 7, I'd say, before they play it unsupervised while you go out to bars. There's a fairly brutal torture scene in here that has a lot of people up in arms. And Lindsay Lohan wants to sue because she thinks this chick is based on her appearance. Yeah, right, she wishes. The game was also banned at Target stores in Australia. Oh well, if you're mature enough to play this murder simulator and separate fantasy from reality, then I strongly suggest that you get it. I really love this one, like I said. The graphics are amazing in this game as well. There are so many different things to do, stuff that's innocent, like riding a blimp, or naughty, like having a prostitute ride you. Each time I play this game, I lose hours just screwing around and having fun, seeing what new troubles I can get into, and exploring places that I haven't been yet. One short segment in an episode can't really cover everything there is to say about this game. Just be sure to get it.
Unbelievable! Piece of shit! We got a man down! Whoa! Wow! You're screwed!
Data East brought out Fighter's History to the arcades in 1993. Looks like an average fighter for the day, so what's the controversy? I mean, it's not overly violent. There's no scantily clad women. It wasn't blamed for any real-life violence. Sinners didn't even get their panties in a wad over it. Well, the problem with this one was one of supposed intellectual property infringement. It didn't take Capcom long to file a lawsuit stating that the game was just too close to Street Fighter II to be a coincidence. The company filed lawsuits both in Japan and the US. Capcom felt that they had a very solid argument stating that fighters, special moves, and button combinations for special moves were infringing on Street Fighter. Players argued on both sides of the issue in the letter sections of gaming magazines. But in the end, the court ruled that all these were commonplace in fighting games and were not protected by copyright. Kind of like how you can't copyright pressing up and shoot to shoot upwards. Therefore, Capcom lost the case. This, of course, opened the door for other companies to make their fighting games the same way. Still, looking at this game, I can definitely see the similarities even in the Super Nintendo version here. Fighter's History does have characters that kind of resemble Ryu, Ken, and Chun-Li. I mean, if you took a quick glance at this screen, you'd figure it's a fight between Ken and Ryu and not Rei and Mizuguchi. They even copied the after battle screen where the loser is jacked up from the fight. If you've played Street Fighter II for any length of time, then you can walk right into this game and control it like you've been playing it for years and years. Most of the characters have moves that are identical to Street Fighter. One of the fighters that I had most fun with is Rei. That's probably because Ken is my go-to guy in Street Fighter II. Rei is lacking a few moves that Ken has, but at least he has a fireball, or as he likes to say it, a baked potato. You pull the move off just like a normal fireball, and damn it, now I want a baked potato! I'll have mine with a lot of bacon and sour cream, please. Fei Lin is one of the characters that was said to look similar to Chun-Li. I can see that she does resemble her in looks. That's about it, as Fei Lin controls differently from Chun-Li and has moves that really aren't very similar. The game is definitely like Street Fighter 2, but it's also different. For example, to get a fighter dizzy and see stars in this one, you have to attack their weak point. Each fighter has one, and it could be on their head, body, or legs. You'll know when you're hitting it because it'll start to flash. Once you hit it enough times, it'll break and the fighter becomes dizzy. There's also a few characters like this clown that helps keep it different. He's really weird looking, but I do like his grab move where he juggles you with his feet. And of course, what fighting game by Data East would be complete without Karnov? I love this little guy. But the music is one thing that isn't nearly as good as Street Fighter 2. It sounds okay here, but you're not going to remember any of it once you turn the power off. The graphics and stages are all decent, and they have that cool line scrolling feature that Street Fighter 2 has. Yeah, this game is as close to Street Fighter 2 as can be, and that's not a bad thing. It means you're getting a very solid fighting game that's a worthy entry into the genre, but it's different enough to stand on its own, I think.
What?
Alright, now I'm pissed off, Dave. These games are just so controversial.
I know, but we fall on the right side of the controversy, not
the correct side.
Yes, we're on the right side of it, the fight for the gamer.
Yes.
Yeah, for our enjoyment. We don't want to be told what we can and cannot watch and
Correct.
play.
Anyway, of course, these weren't all the controversial games that were ever made.
Mm-hmm.
Let us know what you think some controversial games are and why. And if we can come up with enough, we'll include them in the next episode, next time we cover this, if there is a next time.
Yes, I agree, totally.
It's controversial if we're going to do that.
And I'm going to burn your shirt right now, so take it off.
Don't, that's not why you want it off, I bet. You freak.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for watching GameSack. Dave, I finally found the manual to that controversial game, so I can finally figure out how to play it correctly.
Oh, that's cool. What kind of game?
Controversial.
Oh, you mean controversial?
Dude, it's pronounced controversial.
No, it's controversial.
Dude, controversial.
Controversial.
Oh, you guys are both wrong. The quality of this game is disputable.